Good evening. We are back. We're back with another week of drama, another week of solidifying the outcomes of this Premier League, a Premier League that is giving us drama to look at, break down, absorb, and make our own opinions about this Premier League, who is willing or who will most likely take it, who will be going to relegation. But this Premier League is giving us drama in the last stretch of the Premier League. There's only exactly 6 games left. And every match day, this only brings more drama, only makes Arsenal feel and look more questionable. But how far can Arsenal take this? That's the question, the pressure. How much will it mount on them? How can they respond after being contenders for 4 tournaments, losing 2 tournaments in a week, 2 weeks, and now the Premier League feels a little bit more under pressure, and the Champions League looks like it's secured, but they still have to play one more leg to make sure they are able to go to semifinals in this Champions League. But for those that don't know, this is Pase Ambidiestro, Ambidextrous Pass, Fútbol Honestamente, Soccer Football Honestly. But this Premier League is match day 32, and we saw some drama. On this match day 32, we saw the title race blown to a degree by Arsenal, who suffered a staggering 1-2 home defeat to Bournemouth, and allowing the ruthless Manchester City to bridge the gap with a commanding 3-0 statement at Stamford Bridge. In Old Trafford, all we saw was a state of shock after Leeds United secured a greedy 2-1 victory over 10-man United, a match defined by Noah Okafor's clinical brace and costly red card to Lisandro Martinez. The weekend statistical spotlight shown on Bernardo Silva, who set a new Premier League record for appearances by a Portuguese player, while Liverpool celebrated their 2-0 win over Fulham, featuring historic first Anfield goal for teenage sensation Rio Nguma. And this Premier League seems some teams take flight, some teams stumble at the top, and those that are following put pressure on those at the top. But we're gonna dive into this Premier League, a Premier League that started with mainly West Ham against Wolves, a West Ham that gave a secure home victory. The Hammers look like a team possessed, finally finding the attacking flair that has been missing for months to secure the vital cushion above the drop zone. And Mavropanos' towering header and vintage Garrett Bowen curler set the tone for this dominant 4-0. Trashing what's left of Wolves, a Wolves that's looking utterly toothless. And this one is massive relief for Julian Lopetegui. Though the club's difficult remaining schedule means that they aren't out of the woods just yet, they still got to keep fighting to acquire all the points they can and make sure they stay in this Premier League. A West Ham that is in the 17th place and a Wolves that is in the 20th place. Not too far apart, but West Ham seems to be out and moving away from that relegation. So then we have an Arsenal Bournemouth. An Arsenal that played at home but lost 2-1 against a Bournemouth that has been either tying or they have been winning, but mostly tying. And Bournemouth that is one of the teams with the most tied games. And a shock of the weekend, a lethargic Arsenal that lethargic, a very lethargic Arsenal that saw their title momentum evaporate as Bournemouth executed a tactical masterclass against them in the Emirates, and Alex Scott decisive performance helped the Cherries secure the 2-1, and leaving Mikel Arteta to lament a performance he admitted was far below the standards, that they have shown this season. And this defeat blows. It blows the title race for Arsenal wide open, because now it gives a Man City a fighting window and handing the psychological advantage back to a chasing pack. And Arsenal is in first place and Bournemouth is in the 11th place. And Arsenal that feels some sense of pressure due to Man City extra game in the upcoming fixture, Arsenal against Manchester City. Those two fixtures, I mean, that fixture plus the extra game for Manchester City can be the reason why Arsenal looks like can bottle it. And Arteta feels the pressure. Arsenal feels the pressure. Arteta feels the pressure. But Arteta just needs to get back and remembering to coach football and not to focus too much on his hyper figurative language that he tries to use with his team, constantly creating new ways of making this team connect. Sometimes you just got to go to basics. Basics puts you back to the root and makes you see things a little bit more clear at times when you try to add all these other equations to the whole thing. Is just messes things up. So Arteta just needs to go back to basics. And Arsenal went from having 4 competitions to compete and lose 2 of those competitions within a span of 1 to 2 weeks. And now the pressure for their league mounts for not playing with the same level of consistency every game. And then they have the Champions League, which they still have to play midweek this week against Sporting, a game that they won 1-0, but it's not totally fully secure. Yes, they play at home, but sometimes, like this game, they play at home against Bournemouth, they get surprised and they lose grip on that title. At the moment, giving gap for Manchester City to just come in and try to apply more pressure with a game on hand and a fixture that is against Arsenal that can define how this Premier League will go, and with only 6 games left. But moving on, we have a Brentford against an Everton, a game that ended 2-2. This was a frenetic, G-Tech thriller that defined by a world-class goalkeeper and relentless pursuit of the lead of the two mid-table sides. While Igor Thiago, he continues on his personal vendetta against the Toffees by netting his 5th goal against them this season. And Jordan Pickford and Kelleher, they traded miraculous saves to keep the score level. The 2-2 draw felt like a fair outcome in this game. If exhausting results for two teams that simply refuse to blink. And Brentford is in the 7th place and Everton is in the 8th place. These two teams are right next to each other on the table. But Igor Thiago, first Brazilian to reach such a figure of goals, 21 goals in the Premier League, 1 goal behind Haaland, who has 22. And when Haaland was already in the double digits, I personally believe that nobody could get to him. But Haaland went on a drought. He went on a very long drought, and a drought that it lasted him a couple games playing in different tournaments. He couldn't keep adding, but mainly in the Premier League, he looked like he was gonna run far, looking like he was gonna score 30 goals this season. But right now, at the moment, he has 22. Yes, can he reach 30? Yes, it's possible, but he will have to score at least 2 to 3 goals per game, and he looked like he was not gonna be touched. But now the Brazilian who played a few friendlies with Brazil is applying pressure and is the first Brazilian to score such a figure in this Premier League. And now, can he go to catch up? Of course, can Igor Thiago catch up to Haaland? Haaland is just 1 goal on top at the moment, and he, yes, is adding, but not at the rate he was adding at the beginning of the season. Slumps happen. Statistics show different, but at the end of the day, it's the players' performance in day in day out that will 100% dictate what can happen. And Haaland just went on a drought. Igor Thiago has catch up, and the Brazilian is putting numbers. The reason why he was called up to the Brazilian team. But then moving on from Brentford against Everton, we go to a Burnley against a Brighton. A Burnley that loses at home against a Brighton 2-0. A Brighton that toyed with Burnley's side that looks increasingly resigned to its championship-bound fate and cruising to a comfortable victory at Turf Moor. Matt Swiffer chose the perfect moment for to find the shooting boots and netting his first two goals of the season to secure the 2-0 win. The result leaves the Clarets 12 points adrift of safely, effectively turning their remaining matches into a long, painful goodbye. Burnley that is in the 19th place, and Brighton that is in the 9th place. Then we have a Liverpool against a Fulham, a Liverpool that wins 2-0. A Liverpool that give a performance and is fighting to stay in the top 5 so they can play European football. Anfield witnessed the dawn of a new era as a teenage sensation Rio Gumoha announced himself to the world with a stunning debut goal. And Mohamed Salah added a second to ensure that Slot's side tying their grip on the Champions League again for a comfortable 2-0 win. However, the victory was a bittersweet. News emerged that the midfield Curtis Jones suffered a groin injury and could sideline him for a crucial season run-in. And Liverpool is in the 5th place and Fulham is in the 12th place. Liverpool that gripped this win to at least be in Champions League at the moment. It's just the beginning. They have to win the rest of these Premier League matches to secure the Champions League spot that was granted by UEFA based on the high performance, which means due to English clubs getting far in the European competitions, they have been granted another spot, which Liverpool at the moment is fighting for. And since hopes were pushed this far from the UEFA, Liverpool has the chance to keep going and make sure that they stay in European competition. The opportunity is there, and now the question is, how are they willing to take this opportunity? How meaningful is this opportunity to them? Because Liverpool is fighting, at this point, is just fighting for European spots. And a Liverpool that we know won last season, but due to a lot of changes, adapting to their new players, the system has changed, and this Liverpool has suffered. And a Liverpool that's still in the Champions League, but they seem that they have been outplayed by PSG, and it was evident that PSG was the superior in this game. But Liverpool has to come back from a 2-0 in the Champions League. In this game, they win to stay steady, 5th place, and hopefully play European football next season. Then after that, we have a Crystal Palace against a Newcastle. A Crystal Palace that wins at home 2-1 against Newcastle. Oliver Glasner's tactical discipline was a full display at Palace ground out on a vital 2-1 win against the wasteful Newcastle at Selhurst Park. The Eagles showed the immense character to overcome the devastating news that star striker Eddie Nketiah has been ruled out for a remainder of the season. For the Magpies, this was a massive missed opportunity to climb the table, and leaving Eddie Howe facing renewed questions about his side's lack of clinical edge. They were in competition, and then, a month back, their performance just starting to decay, so they were not able to keep consistent. Now his future is in question. Eddie Howe's future is in question, and Crystal Palace have kept very disciplined to be able to at least stay mid-table. A Crystal Palace that is in 13th place and Newcastle that is in the 14th place. Then we have a Nottingham Forest against an Aston Villa, a game that ended 1-1. A greedy 1-1 draw in the City Ground extend Forest unbeaten run to 5 matches, providing that they finally found the defensive steel to compete with the elite. And Unai Emery's Villa were frustrated by a resilient low block that Forest had. And though the Spaniard maintained that his team's extraordinary league position remains a testament for their overall quality this season, both managers seem to be content with a point in a match. The organizational discipline trumped offensive spark in this game. And Nottingham that is in the 16th place, and Aston Villa that is in the 4th place. And Aston Villa that for them it's convenient to keep fighting to stay in European spots due to 7th, 8th place applying pressure, and then 5th place applying pressure to 4th place, and so on for this Premier League. Top 6, top 7 are fighting to get in for European spots. Then after that, we have a Sunderland against a Tottenham Hotspur. A Sunderland that wins at home 1-0. Roberto De Serbi's debut as Tottenham boss turned into a nightmare. At the Stadium of Light, erupted to celebrate a famous 1-0 for Sunderland victory, and Spurs looked utterly lost and remained mirrored in the 18th place, facing the genuine prospect of the unthinkable relegation after 6 consecutive matches without a win. And the Black Cats, meanwhile, continue their fairy tale return to the top flight, climbing into the top 10 and dreaming of European football. Sunderland that is in the 10th place and Tottenham that is in the 18th place. This game just showed something I have been constantly saying this season, and talking about Tottenham, is that Tottenham team that are they're just putting time in. They're not putting a shift in. They are mentally drained. You could tell by just watching the desire from the players every week, every match week that they play this Premier League, and match day, match week in, match week out. The pressure has mounted for this Tottenham team. The pressure has definitely mounted, and now is actually so mounted that if they struggling mentally before, where are they now since the spotlight is on them? So the pressure can be seen. The players' attitude, it shows that they are mentally drained. There's something going on in this organization, and hiring new managers, getting other names, known managers, it just doesn't look like it would do it, because the players have to be willing to. There's no transparency of security. The players do not transmit that they are secure in their game, and that they are willing to take this competition and at least get out of this relegation zone. But this week is confirmed Tottenham is in the relegation zone at the moment, 2 points below 17th place. So that means that they have to pick a win from here on, because 17th place has 2 more points, and if they keep winning, this will get really, really mentally exhausting for Tottenham. Tottenham that needs to hope that West Ham loses the next few games, and West Ham is picking up rhythm. But Tottenham, the team, the organization, the players more than anything, look and feel mentally drained. The pressure has mounted. The pressure is actually mounted at the moment as we speak. If they were struggling before, what are they now? With the spotlight on them, everybody right now at the moment is thinking Tottenham will be relegated. But it's the job of the players and the organization to get in line with their main desire when it comes to playing top tier football, first division football. Tottenham just seems broken at the moment, whether it's the players or the organization. But then moving on, we have a Chelsea against a Manchester City. A Manchester City that wins as visitors 3-0 at Stamford Bridge. Manchester City treated Stamford Bridge like their training ground, surgically dismantling a disjointed Chelsea side with a 3-0 masterclass. And goals from youth product Nico Riley. And then you have Jeremy Doku and Mark Gohi, who highlighted a massive gift for Manchester City that are applying pressure to the fullest to this Arsenal, and there is a class difference between these two squads, with Bernardo Silva settling a new Premier League record for the most appearances by a Portuguese player. City have successfully cut Arsenal's lead to just 6 points. With a game in hand, Chelsea that is in the sixth place and a Manchester City that is in the second place. A Chelsea that has issues of authority. We've seen, as we know, Enzo Fernandez has been suspended, part of the organization and decision of the management because of certain comments he has made. But Chelsea has issues of authority, issues of the whole organization, players, and management to be on the same page, and disagreements on where the manager stands and where the players stand. Problem does not seem to leave this club. If it's not management, if it's not too many players, if it's not consistency, if it's not a starting 11, there's many questions surrounding this club. There's small issues, big issues that just surround Chelsea. Chelsea that has been the focus of problems just surrounding because of such a squad they have, because the players not agreeing, because the manager not agreeing with the organization. Chelsea is surrounded by a cloud too. They're not at the moment in any struggling position, but they are currently fighting to get into European football. And with the depth of their squad, which brings more questions, more doubt, they should be in European positions. But just because you have such depth and great talent, in paper, it could be one thing in football, but on actual performance, it's just another topic. But this Enzo finds himself suspended, and Enzo that, yes, would have been mostly appreciated to be in this game, but he wasn't. And now Chelsea see a 3-0 dominant win from Manchester City at their home. And this Manchester City, of course, as we know, Turkey just keeps attracting the viewers, the football lovers. A Turkey that plays carefree shows the spark that is missing in football today, and a scarcity that's also a player like Turkey is a scarcity more in a Premier League, but in football as we speak in this modern era at the moment, a thing that I will always keep repeating and saying is the robotic football has taken over. But that's the job of coaches and players. If players want to be molded to that extent, or if coaches actually want to mold their players to that extent too. But in an era where football is so robotic, then we see little sparks of Turkey. We see sparks of other players in other leagues like Nico Paz, like Yildiz, like Lamine Yamal, Olis. These are great players that remind you of what football really is. But in an era where football is so robotic, you will appreciate players like Turkey that plays with carefree and shows those sparks that are missing in football today. And the scarcity of players, natural talent is something, that's missing, that you can say, that natural spark, the player playing for what he is and not for what he's being made of. But this guy is the reason people show up to stadiums, like I said about other players. He is a player that gives the reason why people show up to see these games. In Manchester City, that was very dominant in this game. They take the win to apply pressure. A game in hand for Manchester City, and a fixture that is coming up against Arsenal will decide where this Premier League moves. But a Premier League that has given us drama, a Premier League that has given us something to look at and keep suspenseful on, because it's not definite on who will take this Premier League. And then we have the last game of this Premier League, Matchday 32, a Manchester United against a Leeds United. A Manchester United that lost at Old Trafford against Leeds 2-1. A chaotic Monday night Old Trafford saw 10 Men United fall into a spirited Leeds side in one of the most heated Roses derbies in the recent memory. After Lisandro Martinez sold red for a reckless challenge in the 56th minute, Noah Okafor's clinical brace silenced the home crowd despite a late Casemiro header sparking a brief hope of a comeback. The 2-1 victory moves Leeds 6 points clear of the relegation zone, leaving Michael Carrick's United stalled in third place. And Man United is in third place due to goal difference over Aston Villa, and a Leeds that is in the 15th place. But a Man United that has nothing but one competition to focus on and gets stunned in the first 5 minutes of this game. Goes 2-0. Then Lisandro gets a red, a very contradicting red. Kind of soft, yes. Fair, yes. You pull the hair of a player. There's no reason for you to do such thing. You only see this type of things in fights. So is it violent? Yes, it is. Is it soft? Yes, it is. But according to the ruling, it's more than fair. Lisandro did this to himself. Man United won themselves on a game that was full of intensity, constant pressure from both sides. And Leeds did not fully manage this game. Manchester United tried, but Leeds walk away with the best in a win. And what's the mental focus for the preparations for this Manchester United when all you fighting for is one competition and trying to get into European football next season, and you get surprised like this? 24 days where the days that this Manchester United had to prepare for this game against Leeds, you get stunned in 5 minutes, or the first half, in the first 5 minutes. Then you see these Leeds go up 2-0 with a very, very frail defense that Manchester United had. That's why you see a very easy 2-0. Then Lisandro Martinez gets the punishment for a violent act, which is soft. Again, yes, it's understandable. Yes, the ruling is fair. It's a act of violence. You only see such action on fights, so it's understandable. But now this Manchester United has the pressure of fourth place Aston Villa. And again, what's your mental preparation when you have 24 days to prepare yourself for this game and play every single game from there on as a final to secure your spot and fight for the hopes of what Manchester United has not been able to see in the past 6-7 years? But this Premier League Matchday 32 of the season 25-26 delivered a massive shakeup in the title race as Arsenal leaders suffered a shock 1-2 home defeat to Bournemouth and allowed Manchester City to close the gap 6 points with a game in hand after thumping Chelsea 3-0 as visitors. And Old Trafford was silenced by a historic 2-1 victory for Leeds United, fueled by a clinical brace from Noah Okafor and costly red card for Manchester United's Lisandro Martinez. Liverpool kept their top 4 hopes alive with a 2-0 over Fulham, a match highlighted by 17-year-old sensation Rio Ngumoha and becoming one of the youngest scorers in Anfield history. Meanwhile, the debut for Robert De Zerbi at Tottenham turned into a nightmare as Sunderland secured a greedy 1-0 win at the Stadium of Light thanks to a Nordi Mukiele strike. And the weekend concluded with Crystal Palace mounting a dramatic late comeback to beat Newcastle 2-1, and a West Ham that took a massive step towards safety with a dominant 4-0 against Wolves, a Wolves that looks like will be 80% in the championship next year. But that's all for this Premier League. That gives more drama, something to look at. Pressure mounting on Arsenal, pressure mounting on Tottenham, pressure being applied by Manchester City, and some that fight to see European football because that's the only thing they have to look forward this season. The fight for European football for next season. That's all some teams have and hope for. But that's all for this Premier League match day 32. This Premier League shows that Tottenham players are going through a huge bump. Pressure is being applied to Tottenham. Pressure is being applied to Arsenal. Manchester City is applying pressure. Chelsea seem themselves on a wave of questions, of a questionable atmosphere, not consistent. But this Premier League giving us drama day in, day out. And this Premier League is not defined. It still has 6 more match weeks left and 2 to 3 fixtures, depending on who the teams are, can define and change the outcome of this Premier League. Thank you to all of those that are always here. And for those that don't know, para esos que no saben, esto es Pase Ambidiestro, Ambidextrous Pass, Fútbol Honestamente, Soccer, Football Honestly. Thank you to those that are always here. If you like the content, please like and subscribe.